Dropper posts, just like any moving part on your bike, need occasional maintenance to keep them performing at their best. Grit and grime can build up on the seal and actually get pushed down inside the post. Fortunately, we use a sealed cartridge, so servicing the post is much easier than it was in the early days. A simple cleaning and reapplication of grease can work wonders and make your post feel like new again. Maintenance can be performed as often as you like or on an as-needed basis. We recommend servicing your dropper if the return rate has slowed or the post just seems sticky when raising or lowering. The necessary tools for maintaining the post is a lubricant of choice, something with high viscosity similar to slick honey, rubbing alcohol, an adjustable wrench, 2, 3, and 5 millimeter Allen wrenches, a clean rag preferably with microfiber, and lastly, if your dropper has tunable air, you'll need a high pressure shock pump. Your first step is going to be removing the dropper from the bike. Disconnect the cable at the lever, loosen the saddle clamp with a 5 millimeter Allen or appropriate size tool, pull the dropper out of the frame as well as pushing the cable housing down into the frame, just to make sure it's out of the way. Lastly, you're going to actually remove the cable out of the actuator. Next, you're going to be removing the saddle from the post with a 5 millimeter Allen and relieve the dropper post of any air pressure that's in the cartridge, assuming you have an adjustable air cartridge post. Unthread the mid cap and slide it up the dropper stanchion towards the seat post head. Use the adjustable wrench to unscrew the actuator at the bottom of the post. Hold the post in one hand and use the other hand to turn the wrench and actuator counterclockwise. Once loose, unthread the actuator entirely and pull it out of the lower tube by roughly 1 inch. Use a 2 millimeter Allen to remove the through bolts holding the actuator to the lower cartridge shaft. Now that it's disconnected, remove the actuator and rubber washer from the cartridge shaft. Slide the post apart by pulling the stanchion away from the lower post tubing. If your post has travel adjust, go ahead and remove that bushing up at the top of the lower tube. If the actuator rod falls out of the dropper post, it can be replaced at any time. When replacing the actuator rod, be sure that the flat end of the rod is placed inside the dropper, leaving the rounded end exposed. Apply a bit of rubbing alcohol to your rag and wipe the dropper post stanchion clean, along with the brass keys and the machine grooves on the inside of the post. Apply a thin layer of grease to the brass keys and machine grooves inside the post. Check the retaining nut in the saddle head to see if it's loose. If loose, rotate it clockwise to tighten it. If it spins freely, contact customer service at info@pnwcomponents.com for more help. That's it. We're now going to reassemble the post. Start by aligning the brass keys with the machine grooves and slide the uppers and lowers of the dropper post together. An easy way to make sure the post is sliding back together properly is to make sure that the saddle clamp head is pointed forward along with the PNW logo on the front of the post. Replace the rubber washer, followed by the actuator onto the lower shaft of the cartridge. Align the bolt holes in the threads of the actuator and line them up with the machine grooves on the bottom of the cartridge shaft. Slide the bolts through the holes and use a 2 millimeter Allen wrench to tighten snugly. Reinstall the actuator assembly by threading it into the lower post body. Use the wrench to tighten it in place. Just tighten it until it's snug, there's no reason to over-torque the actuator. Seat the bushing into the top of the lower post body, then slide the mid cap towards the threads and thread it back into the post until hand tight. If applicable, use a shock pump to fill the air cartridge to your preferred pressure while the dropper post is extended, making sure not to exceed 300 psi. That completes your servicing of your PNW dropper. If you need help with installation, please reach out to us at info@pnwcomponents.com or view our manuals page on our website.